All right, let's talk about John Adams. America's second president is one of those figures who's often overshadowed by guys like Washington or Jefferson. But his contributions, absolutely essential. He was this brilliant, kind of stubborn patriot who was, in many ways, the true architect of the nation. So today, we're going to pull back the curtain on his story. So picture this. It's July 4th, 1826. It's the 50th anniversary to the day of the Declaration of Independence. And from his home in Massachusetts, an aging John Adams whispers his final words. And here's the unbelievable part, one of history's greatest coincidences. Adams had no idea that Jefferson, his great friend and rival, had actually passed away just a few hours earlier down in Virginia. It's a crazy, poetic end to a story about two men whose lives were completely tangled up in the creation of a country. So, if you really want to get a handle on John Adams, looking at his one-term presidency just isn't enough. Not even close. We've got to dig deeper into the core principles that guided him his entire life. You see, Adams didn't get famous by being popular. It was the opposite, really. His rise was all about this fierce, almost stubborn commitment to the rule of law, especially when it was the hardest possible thing to do. Let's go back to 1770. Boston is a powder keg. An angry crowd is screaming at British soldiers. People are throwing snowballs, rocks, and then someone fires. When it's over, 5 colonists are dead. The city, and really all the colonies, just explode with rage. The soldiers are instantly branded as murderers. Now, in the middle of all this fury, John Adams, a guy known for being a leading voice for the patriot cause, does something that just shocks everyone. He agrees to be the soldiers' lawyer. I mean, think about that. It was an incredibly dangerous move that put his reputation, his career, and even his family's safety on the line. And this line from his argument in court, it says everything about him. He believed that facts and law had to be more important than public anger or mob rule. In a time of powerful kings, that was a truly revolutionary idea. And because he stuck to it, most of those soldiers were acquitted. But here's the thing. Adams's biggest impact wasn't in a courtroom. It was in his head. He was a political philosopher who literally drew up the blueprint for how American government should work. He wrote this super influential pamphlet called Thoughts on Government, and in it, he laid out this amazing framework. You needed a strong executive, a governor, to provide leadership. You needed a legislature with 2 houses so they could check each other's power. And his most brilliant idea? An independent judiciary. Judges who answered only to the law, not to a king or a crowd. And this wasn't just some academic exercise. Adams took these ideas and basically wrote the Massachusetts Constitution, which is, get this, the oldest functioning written constitution on the entire planet. It worked so well that it became a huge inspiration for the U.S. Constitution a few years later. Okay, so let's fast forward to his presidency. When Adams takes office, it is anything but smooth sailing. He's immediately thrown into one crisis after another. I mean, just look at the election results. He won by only 3 electoral votes. Talk about a divided country. And to make things even more awkward, his vice president was his main political opponent, Thomas Jefferson. His presidency was just swamped with problems from day one. France was furious about a treaty the U.S. signed with Britain, so they started attacking American ships. That whole mess led to something called the XYZ Affair and an undeclared naval war. And while all that was happening, Adams was being undermined from inside his own Federalist Party by Alexander Hamilton. Now, in the middle of this war fever, we get to the most controversial moment of his career. Congress passes and Adams signs the Alien and Sedition Acts. These laws were basically designed to silence his political opponents. They made it a crime to publish false, scandalous, and malicious writing against the government. And yeah, they're widely seen as a major stain on his legacy. And for good reason. But here's the twist, and it's so important. Even with everyone in his party screaming for a full-blown war, Adams refused. He chose peace. He sent diplomats to France and ended the conflict. It was the right thing to do, but it made his party furious, split them in two, and it's the main reason he lost the election in 1800. He put country over party, and it cost him his job. So after his presidency, Adams heads back to his farm, pretty much done with politics. But his work, his architectural plans for a stable government, that continued to shape the country for generations. You can just see his fingerprints all over the US Constitution when you put it side by side with the one he wrote for Massachusetts. The three balanced branches, the call for a Declaration of Rights, it's all there. His vision for a government of laws became the American reality. And in one of the most amazing turnarounds, Adams and Jefferson, these bitter rivals, started writing to each other again. For 14 years, they sent hundreds of letters back and forth, arguing and reflecting on everything under the sun. It's this incredible window into the minds of the people who built the country. Which brings us right back to where we began, 50. 50 years to the day after they both put their names on the Declaration of Independence, these two giants, these friends, rivals, and patriots, both passed into history. So in the end, John Adams' real legacy isn't just about being president. It's about this one powerful idea, that our freedom relies on a system of laws that applies to everyone, not on the whims of whoever happens to be in charge. And that leaves us with a question that feels just as urgent today as it did back in 1776.